was top draw. I was going to go into a battle. He'd be the first one there I'd bring because, you know, he was a leader, a warrior. And that's something I'll hold dear to my heart because, you know, we shared many memories, especially overnight stays where he'd, you know, tell me a lot of things that was on his mind and you know, talk about families and stuff like that. And it was really a tight-knit sort of group what we had on the pitch. I'd have no one better on the pitch than Lee because, again, it was just a battle.
In terms of football, it says it all. It's very rare you can see a defender that can play centre half as well as bomb forward at fullback. Joe will tell you it's very difficult. Retired him at Cambridge.
That was the end of me, that. That was the last time I was
played the offside trap at fullback. It's difficult. No, I just think his fitness levels, somebody that was so strong as a centre half as well as a full. I mean, he was probably better at fullback than he was at centre half, and that says a lot.
I think, like, you look at players in your career, and we all were pretty of a strong group, but he was probably one of the strongest ones in our group anyway. And like, we were always put through mentally pretty tough as players, and we had a manager that demanded it, but he was above and beyond, really. You know, he'd always at the front. He was never. He'd come every day, and you'd be knackered from the day before from what we did in pre-season. He'd be fine. You know, we'd be laughing and joking, and he just kept pushing other people. And he, you know, Popey said he wanted to be number one, but when you look back at what he did, I remember that run he did for Rico, and it's been all over social media, and he's run the length of the field and stuck it to Rico, and Rico's shanked one in. But he could play anywhere, and he probably was better at probably best position was left back. But when he left Vale, he ended up playing midfield and everywhere. And you looked at him and thought, there isn't anything he couldn't do.
His selfless mindset, his selfless attitude towards football, towards life, nothing was ever too much of a problem for him.
Obviously, my relationship with Collar was probably slightly different to the rest of the boys because I was kind of coming through at that time, you know, a young 17-year-old trying to make it, you know, my way in the game and make my sort of pathway into the first team. And Collar was always somebody that I sort of looked up to and idolised in the sense that he epitomised everything that I wanted to be. And at the time was a massive figure in the first team, you know, huge character. Everybody loved him and was sort of that rock in the heart of the defence alongside, you know, Gaz Owen and John McCombe.
For me, when Lee first signed for Vale on loan, he was quiet. He just had his head in the paper. Didn't really say anything to anyone, just got about his business. And as time went on, he was the life and soul of the dressing room. He was the first person in that dressing room that if we went to war, I want to be in the trench next to him. He was an absolute warrior. He never used to shout and bawl at people. He was just a leader by doing. He'd bomb up and down the wing from centre half. And I remember he used to say that he didn't used to like playing centre half because it was boring, because he couldn't go up and down the pitch. But it's amazing how you can play with someone and you can become really good friends with them, close, and like this group here, we're like family, and it's cut everyone deep. And what a guy he was on and off the pitch.
What a guy! He first come into the squad, and we quickly integrated him into the car school. And I could probably talk to you for about an hour on those activities. But yeah, first of all, great player, could play left back, right back, centre half, midfield. Technically very good with both feet. He'd drive the team forward, you know, he'd make yards at the pitch. He was very strong physically, probably the fittest at the club. No one could touch him for running.
Lee was a great guy. When I was injured, I spent quite a lot of time with him. I think he was injured for a couple of months when I broke my leg. A few months after, and spent a lot of time with him in the treatment room. And you know, he'd always keep my spirits up, and he was such a strong man. I've never met anyone like him in my life. I used to call him the Yobbo. We used to have a bit of a joke about it. He used to hammer me for a lot of things. I used to hammer him, and we had a really good bond. When I first signed, he was one of the first lads in the change room that, you know, come up to me, spoke to me. You know, give me the time of day, because it's hard when you sign for a new team, you don't know anyone.
Memory, it would be a game against Hereford. Boxing.
I was going here. Christmas night.
Just go with it, Griff.
He top bloke. As I said, we spent a lot of time together, away trips, because he was my roomie, and we used to buy each other things for the trip and in the room. A lot of times it was alcohol. On this particular occasion, it was alcohol. Christmas night, we didn't get to see much of the family, so we said, you know what, let's just get some beers in, let's get some rum in, and we'll just make a night of it. That's one of my memories that will stick with me forever, because it was he just told me a lot about the person himself.
The first day I walked in, and I didn't know Lee Collins. I mean, obviously I was a Vale fan and knew him, but didn't know him to speak to. And I said to the lads, he just said, "Oh, mate, Colo, and I'm sorry about your teeth." Straight away.
I think that's polite. I think he's been polite there.
And that just straight away just gets the ice broken, really. And there was far too many memories, far too many.
And it makes me laugh when I think about it, because he just reminded me, my grandma used to make this corned beef hash or whatever it was, and I always looked at it and thought, it's Collins' back, that is. Freckles all over him, but he loved it. He absolutely loved it, and that's what we had in the dressing room. Everyone could say anything about each other. There was never any malice in it. We had a strong dressing room, and he was, probably one of the most integral parts of it.
I think for me, it was a Tuesday afternoon. We all went for a few drinks, and then a few drinks turned into quite a heavy evening. And it was the day before Lee was going for a medical at Barnsley. I remember me, Yatesy, and Lee in the car park crying because he didn't really want to go, because he's going to miss all the lads. So you can see how much the dressing room was like a family unit, because Lee had a massive opportunity, but his heart was at Vale still with all the lads and stuff. And I think that's one of the things that I want to get across. He had an absolute heart of gold. He was so genuinely nice. If you had an issue, he'd sit with you until it was sorted.
There's one memory that I always think back to, and it was we had a lad called John that he was a Vale fan, he used to train with us sometimes. Mickey used to invite him onto the pitch. And he used to wear all his leathers. He looked like John Travolta, most days. He'd come in, hair slicked back, and Collins and Griff used to just try to 2-foot him every single time he got the ball in the circle. And it was absolutely brilliant. And John he'd get back up, he'd be covered in mud, and then Griff would be sliding in for a tackle, and then Collins would be on his case if he give the ball away. I'll never forget that. That's a great memory that I've got, Lee.
We used to go into sort of, obviously, when the autumn comes around and lads start putting jumpers on, hats, coats, whatever it was, just to keep warm, just to go through training. Lee kind of challenged himself to go through the winter right the way through to the spring and not wear anything but shorts and t-shirt. It was just that stupid side to him that, everyone just thought he was bonkers, and everyone's wrapped up so warm and snug, and he's out there jogging in just t-shirt and shorts, and it just summed him up. Just anything for a laugh, anything for the crack.
I'd probably expand on what Dodsey said about, an absolute heart of gold, Colo, and I always the change room is kind of a ruthless environment for a young kid coming in, and Lee always sort of went out of the way with me to make sure that I felt okay, and I remember running on it to make my debut against Morecambe, and Colo was at left back, I was left side centre half, and he was just making sure that I settled into the game, and giving me the confidence, telling me that I deserved to be there, and he didn't have to do that. And the same was coming into the dressing room every day. We'd always try that I fitted in, and he didn't. Like I said, he didn't have to do. I think all the lads we look back at someone who made them feel welcome when they were a young kid, and for me, Colo was always that guy. So always think back to him and sort of respect him and always appreciate him for that.
Without fail, every morning he'd buy a McDonald's breakfast. So I'm not just talking, your bog standard one. It would be the large version. It wouldn't touch him. He'd just smash everyone in training with the running. Guys, yeah, lots of memories with him, but he was just a really nice guy. Absolutely loved his dogs. To me and him kind of like bonded quite a lot when we first started, because me and him travelled in together. Absolute mad driver. I could tell you hundreds of stories about getting into training very, very quickly. But yeah, just a very, very fun, interesting guy to be around constantly.
Yeah, I could probably go on with the stories of Lee, to be honest. There's millions of them, but like everyone's touched on, what a great guy, and what a lot of good memories as well.
If you look at what's happened and the reaction on social media and from all the clubs he's been at, this isn't just us that are saying this; it's every club. And I think that although predominantly we had a strong dressing room, probably the strongest dressing room that I played in, I would say that all the lads will say the same. He had an influence in every single dressing room he was in. And he was respected the same way in every dressing room he was in. So, you know, we can say all these things and have all these great memories, but it's not just us. Everyone's got the same sort of respect and memories of Lee that we've got.
Genuine bloke, wasn't he, Yatesy? A genuine bloke who you just want next to you, no matter what. And I hope that sort of resonates with his kids as well. Do you know what I mean? We spoke about it in the WhatsApp group about his kid playing football and stuff like that. I hope she sort of carries that sort of spirit with her as well. Because to me, what a bloke, what a genuine, honest bloke.
Griff, he hated the limelight as well, didn't he? Hated being in the spotlight. You know, he was just happy to go about his business and let the 99.9% of other players, you know, take the plaudits, take the headlines, and he was just happy to do his share and help someone along the way as well.
Nothing ever fazed him, did it? You know, for me, like, nothing fazed him. He was so mentally strong, and you know, pre-season would come and he'd have no molds and he'd wear studs every day on the hardest pitches in the world. You know, and everyone else would be running around moaning about blisters with the molds on, and he'd have studs on it. And he would never move from it. He'd never say he got blisters. He'd never struggle. He'd never say his feet was hurting. He was never injured. He just kept going. You know, there's nothing that you could ever sit back and say that's knocked him back. That has. He just never did it. He just kept going and going and going, and you never knew that he was hurt. Even if he was hurt, he was never hurt, was he? You know, he would never let you know.
Yeah, see, and I think I took my sort of marker off him as well, because he was so dead close to the way how I wanted to be. But little did everybody know that he was probably my sort of idol and who I sort of looked up to as well.
Whatever situation, he just found a way of dealing with it with a sense of humour and just sort of, taking it head on and just trying to find the positives and the light in it. And like Griff said, I take that from Lee as well, to be honest, and I try and do that in my day-to-day life. Also, I think it's just if people are listening as well, obviously there's a message from this to make sure that your friends and that are okay, because you never know who it might be, because, obviously we can't turn back time, but if people asked before, you'd probably put Lee down as one of the last people you think could be in this situation. So I just think it's probably something that everyone needs to look out for a bit more in the friends and whoever it is. It might be a work colleague or whatever it is, but something for people to look out for as well.